All right, folks, Trump talks America first to the Davos globalists, and that's the subject of tonight's riff. President Trump spoke to the Davos poobahs today, or what's left of them. Think of it as America first versus the last remaining globalists. Metaphorically, Davos is really kind of a ghost town. The people still left there are the ones who didn't get the memo. That is the Trump memo. The smart CEOs are the Silicon Valley techie crowd who have come over to Mr. Trump's side. They're the ones you saw at the inaugural swearing-in ceremony. They're led by Elon Musk, naturally. They got the Trump America First memo, and they read it carefully. Now, the Davos phantoms, especially the EU and the NATO cabal, well, they believe it's time to keep rearming Ukraine so they can defeat Russia in this endless and stalemated war. Thankfully, Mr. Trump has an entirely different vision. He wants to end the war. He wants peace talks with Putin and Zelensky. He doesn't want to spend any more American taxpayer dollars on Ukraine. In fact, he's mocking the NATO countries because most of them won't pony up 5% of GDP for their defense budgets. So, President Trump argues that Saudi Arabia and OPEC should increase oil production in order to get prices down. And, of course, his drill, baby, drill policy at home also geared towards more production and lower oil prices. Instead of $80 a barrel, something like $60 would be a good target. That was roughly the average during Mr. Trump's first term. And frankly, for many of those years, oil was well below $60. And Mr. Trump correctly argues cheaper oil will damage Russia because Putin and company have a one-horse economy, oil. Drop it $20 or more, and they're in even bigger trouble. And going even beyond that, lower oil prices will bring down the Bidenflation rate, which continues to plague America and Mr. Trump's working-class constituents who could never afford to live in the Biden economy with over 20% inflation beating out blue-collar wage rates. And then, with lower oil driving down inflation, it's time for interest rates to come down. Mr. Trump's view in the U.S. and Europe. The president has an oil-centric view of inflation. He's not a monetarist, but he does have a very important point. Oil and all manner of petroleum products pervade the American economy. They spread into hundreds of everyday consumer and business items, and I'll bet it's true in Europe as well as the U.S. And finally, President Trump told the Davos Europeans it's time to buy American, or else they're going to get stuck with higher tariffs. Now, mind you, European Union tariff rates are roughly 50% higher than U.S. tariff rates. That is patently unfair trading. By the way, China's tariffs are twice as high as ours. India is almost 5 times as high as ours. And the World Trade Organization never does a thing about this. So, Trump's speech to what may very well be the last gasp of Davos was tough. But frankly, it was realistic. And most importantly, an America First speech. Trump's economic logic will lead to an era of abundance if only people would just listen to him. And if the ghosts of Davos would come back to life for just a moment, they'd be imitating Trump economics of low taxes and deregulation and fossil energy production and, yes, peace through strength. And that's the riff.